Viewpoints on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240. Well, we brought this topic up yesterday, and we're going to be chatting about this on several occasions, I might add, here on Viewpoints. And that is, of course, the announcement by the North Carolina Association of Educators that they're asking all the teachers to take the day off. One would argue the word strike, but that may not be the appropriate term in their opinion, so we'll leave it at that. They're taking a day off May 1st. At least that's the proposal. We'll find out how many teachers, in fact, do that. But associated with this is the efforts of the North Carolina Association of Educators. And Ray Nothstine of the organization Civitas, nccivitas.org, by the way, is the website, the North Carolina Civitas Institute, has written a piece here. Is the North Carolina Association trying to divide North Carolina? And then I'll parenthesize this, with their socialist symbols. And Ray, good afternoon to you this afternoon, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I love to be on your show, Lockwood, and thank you for having me on.
Well, this is an interesting question. Teacher walkout day for May 1st, and I know that the superintendent has expressed disappointment, saying that the teachers need to be in class teaching. But you take it one step beyond that, and you look at it in this relationship of their symbols. So talk to us about the symbols. What exactly do the symbols indicate to you?
Lockwood, as you know, this is a state here in North Carolina that tends to be traditionally conservative, and I think the left is unwilling to give up on North Carolina. We all know that. They are all in to capture North Carolina, not just for the presidential election, but to rule the roost in state government as they had for a century. And, you know, what I see going on is an effort to divide, really, especially with these May Day symbols. I mean, there's a reason that they chose May 1st. There's traditional links to, you know what to call it, Workers' Party and labor angst and labor agitation. It started really with the Spanish Revolution, with Marxist symbolism there. And, you know, that was one of the things that was really pushed out of these labor movements. And, of course, you can trace this to the Soviet Union. And it doesn't mean I'm saying the NCAE is Soviet or Marxist. But what I do see going on, you have that raised fist logo. Anybody can go online and Google that with NCAE and raised fist. You will see that prominently on their site. And what I see happening here in North Carolina, look, Lockwood, we're a right-to-work state. We're not used to labor agitation. We're not used to this effort to come in and dividing people between management and workers and things of that nature. That's a little bit foreign to a lot of people in North Carolina. And so I just see some of the symbolism as being trying to raise up some kind of allusions to fighting against the proletariat, so to speak. And so you see that some of that symbolism in what they put forward, and I think they should be called out on that. I don't think that's the best effort that they should be putting forward.
No, it's an interesting comparison, and it's of course the old Soviet Socialist Republic, CCP, fist raised, and then a similar image, only mirror image of the fist going in it looks like in this case a right hand rather than the left hand. And it's the strong students, strong schools, strong communities, NCAE, inside a heart. This whole issue of teachers now attempting to, frankly, go on, if you will, a temporary strike. North Carolina, of course, does not recognize unions, and for that matter, it's a right-to-work state. One of the other issues that I think is a concern for organizations such as the North Carolina Association of Educators, which is, by the way, part of a major national union. This is an interesting dilemma, and I'm wondering how this plays with, in your opinion, with the average voter in North Carolina when you're giving these images that harken back to the old Soviet bloc.
Sure. Look, conservatives need to be honest about the state of education in North Carolina. They've gotten kind of beat up on this issue. Roy Cooper has polled very well. There's a reason why he supported the big, Ed for Red rally here in Raleigh, and how successful I think that was for him. But here's the thing: I think they're pushing too far on this. I think, there's been 5 pay raises in the last 5 years. We are now second in the Southeast. We're ranked second when you and then 20th in the nation, Lockwood, when you factor in cost of living. So everybody can agree that teachers need to be compensated well. I don't think, people are against that. But here's the problem with this organization and what they're doing. It's not just the issue of division. I think they're really inconveniencing a lot of parents across this state because, look, like you have in Onslow County, you had a hurricane issues where people were out for 6 to 8 weeks of school in some parts of the area. And look, those days need to be made up. Those kids need to be they need to be in school. They need to be learning. They need to be catching up with the rest of the state. And here's another thing. There's a lot of people in this state, Lockwood, that make less than teachers. Uh-huh. There's a lot of families that are struggling financially. And it's a big inconvenience. I have a 5-month-old, a 2-year-old. They're not in school yet, but it's a big inconvenience to ask parents to take off from work or either find appropriate child care out there, especially if they're of lower means or lower income. And, I think a lot of people are going to see past this. And I'm speaking really honestly and just in terms of a gut instinct. I think a lot of people are going to look at this and say, this is just about politics. This is not about education in the state or making it better. This is, again, another political power grab to try to increase the power for Democrats.
Okay, partly politics, but also, I would argue, an opportunity, if you will, to create a movement within the state. And I go back to this issue of a union movement. North Carolina is a right-to-work state, and this is something that has augured uncomfortable for the North Carolina Association of Educators. And, of course, now the federal government restricting the ability of unions to direct money for political purposes. These are issues that I think the teachers are concerned with, as well as the topic of money. And of course, you said the issue of pay raises. But the final issue for you on this one, and this is another topic of concern and discussion, and we won't have time today to talk about it, but Ray Nothstine of the Civitas Institute with us this afternoon, the topic of school choice. These are teachers that, when a teacher decides not to go to work, and this is the prediction now for May 1st. By the way, that's one day after our elections here in the 3rd Congressional District. Just to give you another benchmark, if you will, Ray. This is not going to, I don't think it's going to float well, not in this district anyhow.
No, I think that's a great point, and I think part of the problem with this walkout is, what is it all claiming, Lockwood? It's all claiming that we need to keep the status quo as is. We need to fund, we need to throw more money into a system that, look, it's imperfect at best. It's imperfect at best. There's a lot of problems with public education in North Carolina. And look, we had a Civitas poll here recently where only 8% of parents in North Carolina said that parents shouldn't be able to choose what school their child should be in. Right. So there's a lot of grassroots support for school choice. And I think people are going to look at this rally and say, look, this is all about strengthening the status quo. And the status quo is not good enough for North Carolina. The status quo is not good enough for most Americans across this republic. And so I think when people start thinking about it this way and start seeing it as a political grab and for what it is, I think there's going to be a lot of questions raised. And I think added on top of that is some of this Marxist symbolism that is going to push back from families. And you're right about the right-to-work issue. Look, they want to capture North Carolina because they lost some ground in the Midwest. And so North Carolina is an important state for Democrats.
All right, and I'm going to end it with your conclusion of your article. It's political suicide to take on teachers. Just about everybody knows that it's counterproductive, too. But one shouldn't be afraid to call out the NCAE, the NCAE for this kind of perpetual political agitation that seeks to divide us and ends up harming students. They are the ultimate goal in this, or customer in this. Thank you very much, Ray. I want to thank Ray Nothstine for taking the time to be with us this afternoon. We're going to continue this conversation, Ray, because I think this issue of the teacher walkout, strike, whatever you want to call it, they're going to give it another term. A day in Raleigh or something of this nature. This is going to be, I think, an opportunity for North Carolina voters to take stock. and I really appreciate your column here and your efforts. Ray, stay with me. I'll chat with you briefly off air. But ladies and gentlemen, just to prepare you, in 29 days, we're going to have supposedly a mass walkout across the state in all of our schools. Just want you to be aware of that. All right, more to come here in just a moment. As a matter of fact, Vince Colonnese of the Daily Caller is planning to join us if all goes well, here to talk about what's happening in Washington, D.C. Stay with us here on Viewpoints.